Over these last 2 weeks of Lent, we've been reflecting about forgiveness and began by thinking about why forgiveness is essential and going on, secondly, to look at how God's Spirit guides us in the little decisions and not just the big ones. And today, for this third session, I want us to focus on forgiveness as a journey. And as an introduction to that, I'm going to read what I think is a familiar passage from St. Mark's Gospel. They came to Jericho, and as Jesus was leaving Jericho with his disciples and a great multitude, Bartimaeus, a blind beggar, the son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And many rebuked him, telling him to be silent. But he cried out all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." And Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." And they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take heart, rise, he is calling you." And throwing off his mantle, he sprang up and came to Jesus. And Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" And the blind man said to him, "Master, let me receive my sight." And Jesus said to him, "Go your way, your faith has made you well." And immediately he received his sight and followed him on the way. In that episode, Jesus is on his way up to Jerusalem and at the final stage of his own journey, and the crowds are gathering and surrounding him. And there's Bartimaeus sitting on the roadside, on the edge of what's going on. And he knows, as does the crowd, he senses that something significant is not only about to happen, but that they're witnessing it. Bartimaeus realizes that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for himself, and so he calls out, "Jesus, Jesus," trying to attract his attention and probably annoying those around him with his persistence. But Jesus hears, and Jesus calls Bartimaeus over. Bartimaeus flings off his mantle and jumps up and springs and runs towards Jesus. And Jesus, of course, heals him. Bartimaeus, then, we are told, follows him on the way. Now, that's not just meaning that he follows him on the road, though he does, but on the way. In the Acts of the Apostles, Christianity is called the way before it is called Christianity. And it's called the way because, of course, it is the way of salvation, the way of life, the way of forgiveness, the way for us to follow. And also because Jesus himself, as we know in St. John's Gospel, said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Jesus is the one who shows us the fullness of that life abundant, and invites us to join in and to follow him and to learn his way of self-giving, vulnerable love. I've met quite a few people over the course of my ministry who have found it desperately difficult to forgive someone because of an outrage or horror or terror or something that's happened to them. And sometimes these people have felt guilty at not being able to forgive. And if they've spoken to me about it, I've usually asked them, well, I've said firstly, of course, it's hardly surprising that they find it so difficult given what's happened to them, but gone on to say as well, do you want to forgive usually him? And they'll usually say, no, I'm not sure I even want to forgive him. So I will say to them in that case, well, do you want to forgive? And they'll look at me and think, well, yes, actually, I do. I do want to forgive. And so I'm able to say to them, well, in that case, you've begun You're on the way. You're on the journey of forgiveness. And who knows this side of the grave how far you'll get. But what matters is you've started and are moving. You're no longer like Bartimaeus, sitting on the roadside, on the edge, and not even travelling. Every aspect of our spiritual life is a journey. It's true not just of forgiveness, it's also true of love, of joy, of faith, of hope. They're all of them part of journeys for us to follow Jesus' way and, please God, to go deeper and closer to his pattern and example and life. As we do that, we know that we are drawing along the way that he calls us to follow. And that needs our choice and our decision. Usually, with the journey of forgiveness, as with other parts of our life, the process begins with our head, with that decision to take these steps. But it needs not just our head, it also needs our heart. Head and heart have to go together. Head may go ahead and heart has to catch up, but it needs both for us to commit and to travel and journey. And as the prophet Ezekiel reminds us, we need a heart not of stone, but a heart of flesh. A heart of stone is cold, solid, firm, immovable, unfeeling. Whereas, of course, the heart of flesh is living, throbbing, feeling, able to love and care. And that's the calling, for us to learn to have the heart of Jesus, that giving, self-giving, generous, sacrificial love, and to go on the journey of our lives, not just in this Lent, but throughout our lives, following him, on the journey he takes us along his way, because he is the way as well as the truth and the life. And the more we follow him as the way, the more we discover that he is indeed the fullness and abundance of flourishing life for us as for all people.